So once again, good evening and welcome to today's council work session for Monday, January 11th. Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you for joining us. At this time, tonight's meeting is called to order, and we have had several versions of the agenda, so just want to be consistent with our council rules, because I know all of us are learning and trying to be more in line with that. And it does indicate in section 6.1 on the top of page 14 that we are to approve our agendas at the beginning of our meetings. And I know that hasn't been our practice previously, but would like to call for a motion to approve tonight's agenda, just so we're following our processes going forward. Is there a motion to approve tonight's work session agenda?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Mendoza. Is there a second? If we need to have discussion, we can do that. So don't feel like if you make a second that you're locked into it. This is the purpose of it, just to make sure we have everything. So is there a second? All right, so it looks like the motion dies for lack of a second, so we'll just proceed with the agenda as is. As I mentioned, the top of page 14 in the council rules does indicate that we should, as a process, approve the agendas at the beginning of each meeting. So moving forward, the first,
I was trying to unmute as you move quickly. I was in the process of reviewing the motion, but the motion failed.
Yep, so we'll proceed on. Thank you, Councilmember Rout. I tried to do the pregnant pause. It became awkward, so just moved on. But wave at me or something, because it's hard to tell with all the boxes if there's agreement, or because we're not all in the same place, if someone is reading and just needs a few moments. So apologize for that miscommunication. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sorry.
Councilmember, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilmember Rout, we can't hear you. Okay, we'll continue on. Mr. Tonelli, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Can everybody hear the mayor? Thumbs up. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. Councilmember Bowe, can you hear her? We can't hear you now.
No. Okay.
Jocelyn is trying to say something.
Yeah, we couldn't hear her. Are you able to hear her, Councilmember Blunt?
No, no one can.
Okay. Okay. We will try to keep going. I don't know if you want to.
Can call in.
Yeah, that may help. Councilmember Rout, can you call by phone?
Can she put it in the chat?
Let me see.
Where's the chat?
Over there to the right.
Thank you. I forget which platform I'm on sometimes.
I do know the challenge with the systems is if you were on a prior call on a different platform, say like the county had their call earlier, sometimes it causes conflict with your audio settings. So if you were previously on, let's say Zoom, now you're connected via WebEx, it confuses the computer systems, and sometimes it's still looking for that earlier platform rather than the current one that you're on. So
yes, but I didn't use this computer at all today.
Okay, now we hear you. We hear you.
I was muted.
Perfect.
Okay. So are you going to recall the motion, or that's over with?
Yes, if there's agreement to recall the motion.
Where you walking, honey?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Lundy, were you saying something?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like there's agreement to go back and recall the motion. So Councilmember Mendoza, you had initially put it on the table. Do you want to restate that?
Yeah, so move.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Councilmember Mendoza, seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes, I do have some discussion.
Okay.
On the agenda that was presented, it did not give time for the town is this the town grant application, the 2,000?
Meaning 20,000 or
Yes.
2,000?
Well, I don't know if there was some confusion.
Hold on, Councilmember Rout, you went out. You said after confusion, your audio went away.
No,
Can you try?
I didn't touch anything.
I know it cut out. That's all we were saying.
There was right here for 20,000. Is this the town grant application update? Is that the 20,000?
I can assume this was requested to be added. But unfortunately, there's been no update with this, but it can still stay on the agenda.
So was there, I believe I also saw a request for the $2,000 nonprofit organization grants to be added to the agenda. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Councilmember Lundy, did you mention that as a request? But
right. So that's why I'm confused that didn't make it to this version that I see before me.
Oh, you mistakenly took that off. Somebody took that off mistakenly because that was supposed to be on there.
Oh,
okay, so I'm adding that as item C under the emergency budget for amendment for residential grant program. So the grant application program is the second item. Are there any other corrections to the agenda? No?
no.
Okay, so hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it. The agenda is approved with the addition of the grant program for town nonprofit organizations. At this time, we will move into the next item, which is the approval of minutes. We do have 2 sets of work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve the December 14th? These are the regular council member work session minutes from December.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Lundy. Discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And next we have the December 18th work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
Before we get into the rest of the items, there may be some rearranging because down on new business under B for vaccination update, we may have to adjust the agenda when the officials from the county call in. So we'll be on an agenda item, and then then after we finish up that item, we may have to jump over to pick this one up. Just so you know, it'll be out of order. I don't want to keep them on because they're still on the other call too. So as soon as they get done, they're going to drop in on here.
Perfect.
So I just want the mayor and council to be aware of that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, and just to make sure everyone's aware, so Joey Henderson from the planning team of the Prince George's County Health Department will be joining us, and possibly some of his colleagues, to do the vaccination update. For those who may not be aware, at 5 o'clock tonight, there was a separate OEM call for municipalities on the vaccination update. So we are hoping that he can get on here around 6-ish. And as Mr. Tonelli said, if there are no objections, we just want to get him on so we can get the updated materials and ask questions before he has to get to his next meeting. And Councilmember Rout, yes, over to you.
Yeah, so I move that when the Prince George's County Health Department, Joey Henderson, makes himself available, that we stop the agenda items at the end of the agenda cycle and allow him to present.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. I'm just trying to grab the minutes. I'm sorry, our council rules document. When I was reading earlier, again, under the agenda section of our rules of procedure, we're supposed to approve the agenda, but if you have to reorder items, we don't need to have a specific motion for that. I'm just looking for the language so I can
Is
read
that a
that to make
friendly
sure.
amendment?
I'm just reading just to be sure. Where is it?
I think a consensus would be fine.
Yeah. So under section 5, again, this is from page 14 under the agenda 6.1 section of our council rules and procedures. All meeting agendas and amendments to the agenda shall be approved by the town council at the beginning of the meeting. Items on the agenda can be reordered by the mayor and town council during the scheduled meeting, but it does not call for a formal motion. So
It's a
again,
motion on the floor.
yes. So do you want to recall the motion that is currently on the floor?
I do
Or
not.
suspend it?
I do not. I would like to
Okay.
reflect it in the minutes.
Okay. Well, is there a second to the motion? Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. Moving back up to the next section of the agenda, we've approved our minutes and we're now under old business. And the first item is Imagine Hope. So I'll turn it over to, I guess this is Councilmember Rout and Town Administrator Tonelli.
Actually, I'm going to bump this up to Chief Collington since this is a public safety. That's okay, Chief?
That's fine. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Tonelli, and colleagues and community. The only I don't have too much of an update on it.
Okay, the chief lost signal on my screen. Councilmember Rout lost signal on my screen. Did that happen for you all? Councilmember Blunt? Okay, Mr. Reinhardt. Okay, now you're back. Okay, so Chief, we'll turn it back over to you. The screen looked like it was buffering and then we lost your audio and video. So you may just want to start over.
Hey, Mayor, can I interject real quick?
Sure. Actually, yep.
Since you're on the meeting, I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, so good evening, Mr. Henderson. We do see that you've connected with us and we appreciate you taking the time to be a part. If I could everyone who's not speaking please mute because we're getting a lot of feedback and I'm concerned about the experience for our residents who are on. Thank you for doing that. And so we were unfortunately in a position where WebEx crashed on us. So we do apologize to Mr. Henderson as well as the residents and everyone who tuned in tonight with this virtual world that we're in terms of meeting. Unfortunately, these things happen and you can't predict when they're going to occur. But at this time, we'd like to turn the presentation over to our special guest, which is Joey Henderson with the Prince George's County Health Department. And Mr. Henderson is going to give us a vaccination update. So Mr. Henderson, we'll turn it over to you. And Mr. Tonelli, I believe you have his slides.
Yeah, for those, Rick, for what would show better, the actual PowerPoint presentation or PDF of the slides?
I think the PDF would be better because you can flip right through them. With the slides, you have to bring them up one at a time.
Okay. So,
And while Mr. Tonelli is bringing up your slides, Mr. Henderson, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, telling us a bit about who you are, your role with the vaccination process for the county, that would be helpful to the audience, the staff, as well as the council.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joey Henderson. I actually work for the Prince George's County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I'm a manager in that office. However, for the COVID vaccination role, I'm one of the lead planners, along with Donna Perkins and someone else from our health department. And so we've been leading the vaccination effort for the county as far as making sure that there's a certain prioritization, making sure we have sites set up, and making sure we're getting people vaccinated. Our overall goal, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation, is to vaccinate 65% of our county's population by June, which is a large undertaking. So great. Is someone going to be driving for me?
sure, I can go ahead and do it.
Thank you, sir. Next slide, please. So we'll talk a little bit about the vaccine information. We'll talk about vaccine distribution and how we're prioritizing things. And we'll talk about some of the communication and data that we're able to share with our residents. Next slide. So as many of you know from what you've seen on television, numerous vaccines have gone through different phases, and they're currently in different phases in trials. Currently, we have 2 vaccines here in the United States that have reached emergency use authorization, which allows us to actually use those vaccines. But there are 6 others that have been approved in other countries like China, Russia, and the UAE. After the CDC has approved those vaccines, that's what we're actually able to share. And as you can tell, there's 13 other vaccines that are in phase 3. And so we're looking to possibly get more vaccines to be able to push out probably sometime at the end of February. Next slide. So as I stated, we currently have 2 vaccines that have received that emergency use authorization. The Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, both are 2-dose vaccines. The Pfizer vaccine requires a second booster shot within 21 days, and the Moderna requires one within 28 days. Both have been studied a great deal. Over 30,000 participants took place in those phase 3 trials for both Moderna and Pfizer. And they've been nationally allocated through Operations Warp Speed, which pushes the vaccine down to states and directly to hospitals, and then those states in turn push it to local jurisdictions. Next slide. So we get a lot of questions, as I'm sure many of the citizens have, whether or not it's safe. So, one thing we can tell you is that this is not a live virus. Some may remember, many years ago, they used a live virus for, flu vaccinations. Well, that's not the case anymore. This is an mRNA vaccine that doesn't really interact with your DNA. So it sort of gives yourselves the instructions on how to handle COVID-19. The mRNA vaccines have been researched for decades. So I know a lot of people think that this vaccine was rushed. The COVID virus has been around for many years. Now this strain of COVID-19 is new, but COVID itself has been around for many years. So the research is there to be able to allow them to develop a vaccine quickly and safely. Next slide. So this sort of gives you an idea of our phases and how we break them down. there's 3 phases that we follow and that the state has mandated us to follow. But within phase 1, we actually do break it down a little bit further into phase 1A, phase 1B, and phase 1C. And as I go through this presentation, you'll be able to see that breakdown and see who's been vaccinated already and see who's sort of waiting in the wings in those next phases. But as you can see, once we get to phase 1C, the doses that we'll have to give out are going to dramatically increase. Next slide. So as I stated early on, our overall goal is to vaccinate 65% of our population. And, keep that in mind. That's 2 doses. So, every person that we vaccinate, we have to give a second dose to. Our hospitals have received the Pfizer vaccine, and they've already started giving vaccinations to their healthcare workers. The long-term care facilities and nursing homes are partnering with the pharmacy programs, and they begin to give vaccinations to those facilities towards the end of December. As of yesterday, we vaccinated 5,129 of our county residents, meaning they've received at least their first dose. Next slide. So as we talked about earlier, there are multiple phases. So phase 1 includes hospital staff and healthcare workers, nursing home staff, those staff that's critical to COVID operations, whether they're clinicians or support staff to support vaccination sites, our EMS, both our EMS here in the county and our private EMS, and then our healthcare providers who are not affiliated with hospitals, dialysis centers, all of our public safety, so law enforcement, both at the county level and the municipality level, and corrections and the corrections health staff and our corrections officers, and our frontline judicial staff. So all those currently are ongoing. We've started to vaccinate that population, and there won't be a clear line of delineation. We won't say, okay, phase 1 is done and we're going to move into phase 2. Those phases will sort of meld over to overlap. So we'll get a large portion of phase 1 started, and then we'll end up moving into phase 2. Next slide. So phase 1B is assisted living facilities. Again, it hasn't been started yet, and that should actually say February of 2021. And then adult age of 75 years and older that are not in an assisted living facility or a nursing home facility. Continuity of government, so those folks that are key or critical in maintaining government operations. And I'm sure this last one is something that a lot of people would like to hear about, is vaccinating our teachers, getting our teachers and daycare facility and staff vaccinated. And right now we're looking to start all of those at the beginning of February. Next slides. Phase 1C, as you can tell, the population gets much larger, as I showed you in that bell curve earlier. We're looking at adults with 65 years to 75 years of age. We're looking at public safety that we might have missed in that first phase 1A. We're looking at healthcare workers who we haven't previously touched. And then we're going to go into the food and agriculture production, those who work in supermarkets, and all those that were identified early on as essential workers, those who were going to work at the height of COVID. Manufacturing, postal service, public transit, and like I said, grocery store employees. We're looking to start them sometime in March of 2021. Next slide. So then phase 2 we'll focus on a much larger populace of those 16 to 64 years of age that have some type of underlying health condition. And we've all heard what some of those underlying health conditions are. So we'll be targeting those folks, those that are incarcerated, those that are, because they're incarcerated, they're at higher risk for catching COVID. And then essential workers in our utility industry, transportation, logistics, and infrastructure. The folks that keep our electric on and keep our water going. Next slide. So the vaccinations will be enabled, they are and they will be by appointment only. Currently, we have 2 sites that are open, but they are open only for those the population that I covered in 1A, and that's the Chevrolet Clinic, which has been open since the 21st of December. And we had a soft launch of sports and learning this weekend, and we vaccinated over 530 people in 2 days. And so that was a soft launch. We're looking to increase those numbers in this week to doing 500 a day. And we anticipate actually opening up other locations, especially when we start getting to more the general public. We're going to need more bandwidth to be able to vaccinate the groups that we've outlined. So the Dyer Regional Health Center is looking to possibly open in mid-January, and we are working on getting a site in the Laurel area. Our vaccination staff, we use the nurses from our health department. We also have our advanced life support providers from our EMS department who are actually able to give vaccinations. So they've been a large help. The National Guard has provided 6 vaccinators and 4 administrative staff, which we will be using typically at our Chevrolet location. And then we're looking to finalize an agreement with Kaiser where they can assist us in doing vaccinations, and that agreement is ongoing. Next slide. So one of the biggest things that we're really trying to do is push information out. We know that there's a lot of hesitancy about getting the vaccine, so we've developed some one-pagers that can provide information and point you in the right direction for where you need to go to find out about the vaccine. And we also want people to know that once your group is up, the vaccine is free. You're not being charged for it. It's free. Your insurance companies will cover it. Next slide. And so we put together a COVID dashboard that sort of gives a snapshot of where we are with our population. So it gives a total count of the numbers of vaccines that we've given out. It talks about what phase we're in. It gives a age breakdown. So it's a lot of key information. And it's constantly being updated to provide data on where we are in our vaccination effort. And next slide. So that information can be found, and it's actually on the last slide. It'll give you the link to where you can find that information at, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, for the presentation. At this time, council members want to take a look and see if any of you have questions. I know I jotted down a few, but want to give you all an opportunity. Councilmember Blunt said no. Councilmember Lundy, Councilmember Mendoza. Okay. Any questions? Councilmember Rout? We can't hear you.
Okay, I have two questions. My first
Okay.
question is there a waiting list? I have been contacted by some of the residents that are eager to get their vaccine. Is there a waiting list for those who are within a 5-minute drive of the health department or the other sites, and that they could be pulled off the waiting list so that doses are not disposed of?
So I've actually been asked this question. I was asked this question at Sports and Learning this weekend by a resident. So we will not open the next vial unless we know we have at least 10 doses. And so therefore, we're not wasting. Before we waste dosages, we will reschedule those that are in that last group. If we end up not having enough, we will reschedule them for another day. We can't push forward with vaccinating folks outside of that priority list. So we gotta stick or adhere to those within that priority list because the state's requiring us to do so.
Thank you so much. My second question is that based on your category, what, when you do make your appointment, what documentation is there? Is it an upload process? So when it's your turn, let's say, for instance, there's someone that we come across that is in vaccination group 1C, but they serve as a group in 1C in another jurisdiction, the burden of proof, how are you doing that? So like in another jurisdiction, they may work law enforcement. Do they need to bring that paperwork to you, or is it the jurisdiction you're a resident of? So I guess that's a two-part question. So how do they upload their supporting documentation or provide proof of when it's their turn in line? And then secondly, is it where you live or is it where you work as it relates to your priority list?
As it relates to the priority list, is based on their job function. So if they're within a certain job function, it doesn't matter if they live in Prince George's County or if they live in one of the surrounding counties. We will vaccinate them because they are serving within a functional group within the county. So an example, a firefighter who works in Prince George's County but may live in another jurisdiction, because he is a firefighter in the county and he's in that 1A category, we will vaccinate him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. And Mr. Henderson, I know we lost a lot of time, so I'll be quick I'll just raise one question. I can always follow up via email, but I did see the slide that beginning January 10th is when the vaccinations will begin for law enforcement, local law enforcement, including municipalities. And so just wanted to understand, is there a targeted list that you all are working from with that? So you're starting A through Z for the 27 municipalities, or is there some other criteria that's driving the presentation order of, the order of those vaccination distributions?
So with law enforcement, I've been working with the Prince George's County Police Chiefs Association, and the information was pushed out through the association. Basically, what we're looking for is a list of the critical staff from each department, and they provide that list, and then we take that list and we push out the links for the PrepMod system, which is the registration system for them to be able to register and get vaccinated. There's not a set, we're not saying that one police department is getting it over another. Once I get that list, we have been pushing out to those municipality police departments so they can start getting their folks vaccinated. So we started law enforcement this week, and that is, based on the information that we've received from those municipalities. So as soon as the chief of a particular municipality gives me that information, we'll set them up. And it's not just, we're not just opening up for them for a 1 week span, because we know there's quite a few law enforcement folks, and you have to deal with schedules and making sure operations are taken care of. So, it'll be more than a week, and we'll open it up to law enforcement.
Great, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tonelli? You're muted, hang on.
Sorry about that. Just a quick one. Effectiveness, I keep seeing, I just want to get out in the public. It's sort of a softball question, but effectiveness after the first dose, how many weeks after the first dose, effectiveness, second dose, when is it most effective? So people just don't think, I got the first dose, I'm fine. I just want to put that out there, what you're seeing.
So, and
roughly.
Roughly after the first dose, you get some level of protection within 7 days.
Okay.
But that's still, and what we really need to push is that still does not mean we shouldn't be taking all the precautions. We are going to be wearing face coverings for a while, but we don't want people to let their guards down once they've had the vaccine. We don't want to fall back into some bad habits. So we're still pushing the face coverings. We're still pushing the social distancing, and we're still pushing the sanitizing of hands. But after 7 days of the first dose, you will start to see some level of protection.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Mm-hmm.
Great question. Well, again, Mr. Henderson, we do appreciate your time and your patience given our technical challenges this evening. Hopefully, if you have the occasion to join us in the future, it'll be a lot smoother. But again, we appreciate you jumping on. We don't want to hold you up any longer. And of course, we'll be in touch with any additional questions. But I also want to send a quick thank you to your colleague, Donna Perkins, who you referenced previously, as well as Caitlin, who I did see her on initially, but Caitlin is, let me grab her last name. She's with the health department and was instrumental in coordinating to get you on with us today, Caitlin Murphy. So thank you all so much for taking the time, and you're welcome to stay or cut out if you have other things to get to.
No, thank you on behalf of Director Gill here in the Office of Emergency Management and Dr. Carter for the health department. We appreciate the time, and thank you, and have a good night.
Excellent. Thank you all. And again, thank you to our council members and staff for being flexible and allowing Mr. Henderson to go ahead and present his information to us. And so we'll resume with where we were previously before he joined us, which was under old business, Imagine Hope, and we'll turn it over to Chief Collington.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Acting Town Administrator Tonelli, and community and colleagues. Just to update everyone on the Reimagine Hope initiative that was put forth by Councilmember Rout. She and I met on November the 17th to discuss the layout for the initiative, and that included coming up with a policy, the purpose, roles, and what it would take to set the initiative up, the rules and participants. Additionally, we talked about having social service, two part-time positions built into the initiative for social service, mental health, and also some training for our police staff. We also discussed funding, how would this initiative be funded? And we initially talked about proceeds from the speed camera program, which we never got started, using 10% of that. But currently the program is not up and running at this time. And that, I believe that's, then we discussed creating the application what questions will be asked in the application phase. So that's all I have. We're planning to get back together after December the 15th. I believe Councilmember Rout had a virtual listening session set up, and we were going to plan to get back together after that. That's my update.
Thank you, Chief Collington. Any questions or comments from the council or staff? Okay, so we look forward to hearing more as you all continue collaborating and rolling out that initiative. The next item up on the agenda is the emergency budget amendment for residential emergency grant program opening. And for those who may not be familiar who are watching, this is specifically for residents who are impacted by emergencies such as flooding, God forbid, another derecho, any sort of unexpected act of God, if you will, that impacts their residents and requires emergency repairs. And it does serve as a matching program up to $1,000. They can be reimbursed through this grant. And I believe the total amount the council approved for it was $20,000. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Tonelli to give us an update on the budget ordinance.
This has not been launched yet. We're waiting for the Spanish translation to go ahead and put that out. And with the CARES activity going on, everybody hear me okay? Get some feedback.
There is a lot of feedback, Mr. Tonelli. Can you give me one moment? Let me see if I can help. It appears everyone else is muted.
Okay,
For some reason, when you go to speak, that's when we hear all the feedback.
I think it's better now. Looks like everybody's muted. Everybody can hear me okay? Okay. We haven't put the Spanish translation out yet. That's not completed. So we haven't launched this yet. And I want to bring the budget amendment once this is fully completed. But there's been no activity on this right yet because I want to get the Spanish translation out. At the same time, we put out what we just approved. I think it was at the October or November meeting where we made the final approval. But with the, that has not been put out yet, though. I don't have a budget amendment right now for this meeting. So I'll put that down in the future items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Councilmember Rout.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Tonelli, is there a rollout plan date? There have been a number of Ward 1 residents that are on limited incomes on top of COVID. The expenses they were banking on an emergency grant program as it relates to support from their local municipality by which they pay taxes to. My question is just, what is the rollout plan? Is there a Spanish translation is there a targeted date that you will be looking at? Because the residents are definitely in dire need.
And I agree. And that's what the program was for. A definite date, it keeps being unfortunately pushed as we have the other items come up, such as the CARES Act completion and doing that. But the Spanish translation, Mayor, I think you made a contact for us to get some help with that. And once that's done, we can go ahead and push this out. I will need some help in the processing of the applications. That is going to be another issue too. Who's the review process and the processing the applications, and I may ask help if they're available from the CAT team. So.
Great, thank you for that update, Mr. Tonelli. And then on the resident who can assist with the Spanish translation, I'll connect again tomorrow to try to get that pushed forward with you and Diamond, just because, for the marketing of it and everything. And Councilmember Blunt, I believe I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, trying to get, if the wait is trying to get it translated, I might can find someone that can translate it in Spanish. Again, like yes, that is a marketing tool that Diamond can do, but finding someone to do it in Spanish, that should be like one day. It's just words put it into Spanish, and we have contacts that I think probably on the CATS team. You might know someone or somebody who's worked with the CAT team that can put that document. I don't see why that's going to hold up. If that's the only hold up.
Great, thank you. And I do understand with Mr. Tonelli just trying to fill in 3 roles, there's only so much you can get done. So I think the solution of having, someone else assist Diamond with getting this translated, it takes it out of your court, Mr. Tonelli, to help kind of move it forward. So I will, as I said, follow up tomorrow morning so we can get that done because we do have a resident who can assist and she's pretty quick, doesn't take her long. So,
Okay.
Councilmember Rout.
To acknowledge we have a resident that's made a suggestion that there's a resource within the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission community outreach. They may be able to assist us. So I would hope that we will be utilizing our sister agency and partners to execute this. We have to remember that these just waiting around 2 months for a translation, that's not very efficient.
Great, thank you all for that feedback. And looks like we have some solutions to get that completed rather quickly now. The next item was the grant application. I believe Councilmember Lundy wanted to just have an update for the council and community with respect to where that process is. So over to you, Mr. Tonelli.
This is something that is budgeted for under the mayor and council budget. And we normally do it in the first part of the fiscal year, early in the fiscal year in September, where we bring the applications to us. They were going through the previous acting clerk, and after she left, there's been no activity on it. Waiting for some help to get in here, of course, to pick this up because she was also the person that reviewed this. And so that is another, we just don't have a grants department here. Unfortunately, it's me doing everything. So that's where it is right now.
Great. And I'm wondering with the solution we talked about previously with temporary help in that clerk role, if maybe this is a project that that individual could take on, especially given the familiarity with it. She could probably do it in her sleep.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
That's on the list.
Excellent. Yeah, because we do need to get that moving because before too much longer, it'll be time for the next fiscal cycle. So we do need movement there. And then sticking with you, Mr. Tonelli, update on the community engagement tool. I believe Councilmember Rout had at the December meeting shared with us her experience with the Blackboard system, and we did have a formal vote to move forward with that system. So just wanted to hear more about what's happening with that.
Well, after the 14th meeting, and if we remember, the CARES Act grant was ending on the 15th. So in talking with Blackboard, I made a panic call to Councilmember Rout because the pricing was different. It was increased pricing for setup and would only reach 4,000 residents, and the pricing was over $7,000, I believe. And I called her and I was like, what do we do? And she looked at the next system, which was the red, help me out, Councilmember, red. Yeah. And we're going back and forth. And this is in the afternoon and we have to make a decision. So went back to the proposals and contacted her, and Civic Plus was the next best option. And they came in at $4,500 for total. for 2 years, and it includes unlimited amount of residents to reach. So, it was a quick decision. I know it went against the motion, but I went back to Councilmember Rowd, who made the motion, to help me with this. And of course, time was ticking. So we went ahead and made the decision, and we moved to Civic Plus. And they also have some other platforms as well. I'm going to get into the next agenda item, which may be helpful as well. And the chief and I have already engaged in a kickoff meeting with them last week as well, about how it's going to be the implementation, the rollout plan. And Chief, I think I want to say it's like a 6-week rollout on this, I believe, by the time we set all the protocols, user accesses, try to bring in the information. And Chief, you can jump on any time. And we also need to do a marketing campaign to put out there to garner contact information for people to, who are already on the e-blast or anything else, to get them to engage, to share their contact information so we can push this information out to them. So it's all in the rollout plan and everything. So, but again, this was just done 3 weeks ago, and we're trying to get it up and going quickly as possible.
Thank you for that information. And just as a reminder from the December 14th council meeting, I know Councilmember Rout had offered to help with the engagement plan, and I had put myself, up as a volunteer for that too. So we really do want to be part of putting that plan together to roll it out and just really pushing it, because it is going to take not just staff doing it, but support from the council to really get that off the ground and drive people to giving us their contact information. So that's not to say that we won't connect with the other council members. We may say, Councilmember Blunt, we wanted you to do a video that we can post for the seniors and share about how easy it is to share your information. So I don't want that to get left behind, that we did commit ourselves to assisting.
Agreed.
And Councilmember Lundy had a hand up.
And there are no blue hands on here, so I can't raise my blue hand. So, Madam Mayor, thank you. You didn't ask if there were any questions. I want to go back to the grant application. So, Mr. Tinelli, thank you for that update. You said that there was no activity, and Mayor James spoke about someone coming on. So please remind me, maybe my colleagues can remind me, did we hire someone, or did we approve someone to come on to take care of it? I'm confused.
So we did have a conversation about some temporary assistance with the council.
Okay.
And Mr. Tinelli was following up with that individual to gauge availability, what the cost would be. And I hope I'm not getting in trouble here, but Mr. Tinelli stopped me. But we reached back out to Miss McCauley, who's our past town clerk, because she has experience being the clerk. She knows it. She doesn't have to be trained on the functions. She did retire, but because of COVID, she said, I've got more than enough time on my hands, and I miss you guys, and I want to help. So that was the option that Mr. Tinelli was looking into, because again, as Councilmember Rout pointed out previously, we need someone who can get in and get rolling. We've got to get our functionalities going. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Lundy, did you have a follow-up?
Oh, okay, so I just thank you for that reminder. So that was a recommendation that he was going to make to the council.
That is what we did discuss that. I'm trying to remember, Councilmember Rout, do you remember when that was?
Yeah, somebody help me.
Yeah, there was, I believe we had a meeting back where we began talking about the need for front office support and assistance well over 2 months ago. I do recommend that we have, we bring it back to further discuss
just to look at the finite details and everything else, because it has been a lot of times that has happened. So I do recommend that we revisit it in possibly a closed session so that we can talk details as it relates to the things, because the need has definitely changed. The scope has definitely changed because there are more projects that are now piling up as when we last spoke about the need.
All right, thank you both for that update. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the next item on the agenda, moving down from the communication engagement tool, is the website updates.
And that can probably be pushed in all in the same category too, unfortunately. During all this, our website went down. Did I touch on it previously in another meeting? Okay. We have a company we selected back in April or May, I believe, called Revise. It was doing the website, and not much activity happened this summer, but after it started, the person who previously held the website, put in nice terminology, is no longer around. And all the access to the website and all the files and all the backup is left with that person as well. So Revise wants backup files in order to do the website, but the issue is we don't have any, and I keep directing them to use the archive.org where our website is now. All the pages are on there, flashed through certain months. Updated through, I want to say, May or June of 2020. And I've been asking them to rebuild the site from there. You have the content, don't need the pictures, just let's get this up and going. And it's been a slow process. But since then, last couple of weeks after we signed with Civic Ready, who's going to be doing a text messaging system, they also do websites for municipalities, and a lot of municipalities, they're popular with them to use them. I'm discussing with them to terminate the project with Revise and see what they can do to go ahead and pick it up. And just, they said it shouldn't be taking this long, and they should be able to do it from there. So it's just time to, I'm going to talk to them some more and see the actual scope, what's possible, and to pull this, just to get something up and going, and then we can update the content from there, because it's been down for a good part of 2.5 months now, I believe. And it's, I guess I don't design websites. I don't know too much about them, but I would just think that it shouldn't take much to put 5 pages up of basic information and just, so keep trying to do that, but they want the actual files in WordPress that I can't produce. I don't have WordPress. I don't know WordPress. So
Great,
that is an ongoing project. That's probably, can keep tossing in here.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Mr. Tonelli. I see the hand of Councilmember Raup. And as she's unmuting, my question, though, is with Civic Plus, because they have a lot of experience working with municipalities, they should be able to get this up and running much quicker. But could you just please verify with them that they could at least do the initial shell? So we have something with just the basic tabs. So not necessarily all the documents, library, that we would normally have, but if they could just do the simple shell with the key areas of information, emergency information, COVID information, things like that, while we're building the other pages, that would even be helpful.
And that's what a marketing director specialist and I have been asking them. I just keep saying, I even did a whole outline, here's a shell, tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull it from over here. It's there. Just type it in and type it. I don't care. And it's just not happening. They want more content. I'm like, no, just here it is. Just get this up and going. We have nothing right now. Anything's better than nothing right now. I don't care if you put up a, under construction page or something, just something up there, just so people know that we are a true live entity here in Bladensburg. So it's frustrating. And it's just, I don't know much about Revise. So the other people I talk to do. I guess they are, I don't know if y'all heard of them before. I guess they are a larger company. I have no idea. So but people I've talked to about it, trying to find solutions to this, have heard of them. Different reactions, but it's time to,
Yeah, it sounds like it's time to cut the cord. Councilmember Rao, I know you had your
Yes.
hand up.
Thank you, Mayor James. Acting Town Administrator Tonelli, I do remember back a month and a half ago that we were able to successfully get the website back up, utilizing some government server. Hence, since then, residents in Ward 1 have contacted me to report that our website is down again. So I'm not sure if that's been brought to your attention, but what is the plan on looking at how that government entity that helped us rebuy or get rights to our documents and information, what is the plan moving forward so that our residents can have a website that's in between
So,
this revised?
can't see it. So the website is it's archive.org, ARCHIVE. When it comes up, it's archive.org or is archive.gov? No, it's .org. So .org it's a nonprofit. And you go to the search box and you type in our old Bladensburg address at bladensburgmd.gov. And that comes up. It's slow now because what it does is it goes out, and what this website does is it records copyrighted information, music, videos, TV shows, newscasts, websites. It's huge, and they run on donations and grants and foundations. But if you type in the search box for bladensburgmd.gov, it takes a little bit, but you can go through the website and you'll see it. If you click on it, there's all the content's there. I want to say 95% of the content there is accessible up until it left. So my issue is, it's
so
there.
it's gone.
Huh?
So it is gone.
It is gone. Yes.
Okay.
It left. It was okay. So back up one more step. It was hosted on GoDaddy server. The person who held the rights to it, gone.
Right.
Those rights are gone with him. There's no. I guess it's popular for people trying to say, "Hey, that's my website. I want it back." It doesn't work that way. It's copyright information, unfortunately. So
it was back up.
No, it wasn't back up.
It's archive.org.
Okay, archive.org has pictures of it and has all the attachments, but it can't be accessed. It's like a picture of a website that you're pulling up. It's pictures of attachments. So that's where the issue is, because it's just pictures, like screenshots of attachments and screenshots of the web page, screenshots. And it's interactive, but it's pulling up screenshots taken throughout periods of time. And that's where they're saying, we want the actual files written in WordPress. I'm like, best I can do is, can't you just, type all that content real quick, or, I'll type it for you and you put it up there. But I don't know WordPress, so it's not that easy to, copy and paste, I guess, but that's my limited web development knowledge. So Rick is on here. He may know a little bit more, but I'm not sure. So unfortunately, it's frustrating.
It's helpful.
It's frustrating. That's what it is, because you can see it. I got a company here that's doing it, but for some reason, it's like they can't see it and won't do it, or they don't want to do it because it's not so I'm talking to other channels. In my brain, if you see 2 pages of a website, you should be able to take those 2 pages and put them over here and then say, this is our website now. But, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli, for that feedback. Are there any other questions from the council? Because I know we lost about 30 minutes with the connectivity issues, but I do want to make sure we move through the rest of the agenda. Seeing no hands, I'll keep going. The CARES Act funding wrap up, Mr. Tonelli.
Do we want to, okay, I'm sorry. Where we left off the last meeting was the PPE that we were going to purchase. There was a motion made and seconded, I think by Councilmember Rout, Councilmember Brown, or to purchase 1,000 of the PPE kits through, the first part of the motion was a giant, but then just fell off to the 1,000 of the PPE kits for distribution. And anything else, we identified some other products, but as far as the text messaging system, I can pull up the whole motions. It's in the minutes. So, but when I focus on, let me back up. And anything that was unspent was going to go towards public safety salaries that were already expended that we're going to be reimbursed for. So the meeting was on the 14th and the purchases had to be made on the 15th. And through all our channels, the most we could purchase was 480 units of the PPE kits. We had issues with trying to purchase too many online and shut down two of our credit cards, and that slowed the process down. And I wasn't even sure if it did go through by the end of the night, but thankfully the purchases did go through by the next day. It showed that I had to call a credit card company. Long story short, they thought they're fraudulent purchases because we're buying these through not normal channels. So the credit cards got locked up. But anyway, long story short is we purchased half of the PPE kits that we planned for. So the money that we didn't use from there, I pushed back over and to be reimbursed for the public safety salaries. That was a major glitch with the with that one. And we did get the gators. We ordered the gators with a Bladensburg seal on them. Shawnee can talk about that, but they're already ordered. And now we have to talk, well, we're going to work internally on the distribution process of these the PPE kits as well.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. We did order the gators. They were ordered a few weeks ago, and I did speak with the Rob Lucian of Eastern Embroidery and Lucian's Trophies right there in town. He advised that there's a backlog with ordering neck gators through the company that they order, but ours have been ordered and should be with us within the next 30 to 45 days.
Yes, Councilmember Blunt has a question.
Okay, so that I understand, you didn't get a chance to order the PPEs offline, that it didn't go through, or did it go through?
What happened, I was scrambling, driving around, trying to purchase as many as possible locally at the same time. I had somebody back here ordering them at the same time. And I came back in the office and ordered at the same time too. And they did go through. But for half of the quantity. So that's all we got through was for half the quantity. So instead of 1,000, it's just under 500.
So, okay. Now, and then you talk about the gators. Was the gators purchased with the CARES Act money?
Yes. We talked about that, I think, at the November meeting, and maybe at the special work session in November.
What he said was ordered like 2 weeks ago, and that was past May, December.
I can't hear you. Yeah.
Well, he just said you all ordered them 2 weeks ago. That was past December 15th, or maybe I heard something wrong. But Sean.
Oh, Councilmember Rout, he said a few. So.
Yeah. And just a correction, when we ordered the gators a while ago, but they were just ordered a few weeks ago. So Lucian's had our order, but they were just able to put them through their manufacturer a few weeks ago because of the backlog with the manufacturer.
All right, thank you, Officer Reinhardt, for that clarification. Are there any other questions from the council? Okay. The next item is the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department's ambulance chassis. I understand from the attachments that some key things got missed on the quote.
Wasn't so much the quote, was the specs, and the person that provided the quote had a question about the specs and sent long follow-up, because it's an engineered unit. It's an engineered piece of machinery. It's not just like a off the lot vehicle. So they had questions about it, and also the box manufacturer, they're going back and forth, and something that wasn't on the original quote, which of course this all happens weeks after the grant, but as it goes into engineering, was something called liquid spring technology. And I'm going to ask Sean, and I sent Mayor and Council some information about that and a web link, and I could even show some of that real quick, what it is on here, if you want, Mayor. I don't know if we have time or not, or
We have the attachments, but if Officer Reinhardt wants to add a little bit more information, that might be helpful for us.
Sorry about it. Yes. Basically, liquid springs is you have traditional leaf springs on most vehicles, and then you have which was the airbag suspension, and the liquid springs is basically going to provide a much smoother ride for not only the firefighters but the patients in the back of the ambulance. So that's what the additional cost was being coming from.
and it's there's a website link I could send to you all. Well, I sent to you all. What happens is for the safety and comfort of the people in the ambulance. So if you're riding the ambulance, you're the EMT staff, you're treating a patient. Imagine going down a bumpy road, potholes, so people are flying up and hitting their heads, and patients are, and you have everything in the emergency body jumping around. This is going down a road like this. The tires and suspension are bouncing the whole way down the road, and the box is staying steady.
Yeah,
So,
and it's also going to give more stability to the unit itself.
And of course, this doesn't come up during, this comes up after, unfortunately. And it's an additional $10,550 option because it's a big engineered piece, gas ride suspension system that's built into the chassis that's attached to the box. And there's a controller inside also where the EMT operators and drivers can raise or lower the box and raise and lower the chassis in order for loading, offloading conditions, everything else. I bought quite a few trucks, like big trucks and chassis. This is my first time buying an ambulance chassis. I never knew all this, I never knew all, so unfortunately there was, this is the first time we're doing something like this. And it's an option that was not on the original list. So.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. And I know hopefully the council had a chance to review the PDF attachments, and then there was also a Word document with options for us to consider. And this is on the council meeting agenda under, I believe, financial business, so that we can determine what, if anything, that we want to do. Over to you, Councilmember Rout.
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. So I am I'm well aware of the procurement process as it relates to procurement. And so this modification in a regular procurement process would be like a change order because there are additional items that are needed to procure this. And so when we had originally received the proposal from with the first quote, I'm just interested in understanding two things. Was this quote was this piece included in the first quote? Because it was about $10,000 more, or $10,000 or $12,000 more, if my memory can, assist me with this. Secondly, if this is, we were also saying that we were supporting the volunteer fire department by using the CARES Act funding. Is this a piece that can be recycled from another engine that we already have? So I'm not an engine person. I don't know much about engines, but as you all have, the content experts have shared with us that we would be purchasing the front part, the engine, and the back part, the box, would be kind of paid for by the volunteer
Mhm.
fire department. So I'm not understanding really the need. It doesn't make sense to me because it looks like the town of Bladensburg, we did our portion, which was funding the engine. So if you could help me understand if this is something that's a new piece of equipment, and then was this included in the first quote, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm not sure if it's, I can pull that up really quick.
And Mr. Tonelli, this would be this piece would be connected to the apparatus, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
I was trying to also search for it. Would that have
Yeah.
been September or October meeting?
I have the first quote. It would not have made a difference because it was at 91,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the one I'm talking about. Was this piece inclusive of that first quote?
Let me scroll through this real quick.
Yes, sir.
PTO options. I'm a quarter way through it. It's 23 pages, a lot of line items. Going through it real quick. I'm looking for it. On suspension, rear axle equipment. Let me see. Sean, have airliner, 15,000-pound rear suspension.
Yeah, but I'm not sure because I'm not looking at it, so I'm looking for it myself.
There is a airliner rear suspension.
That may be the air ride suspension compared to the liquid suspension, so it could be an add-on.
Sounds like that's an air ride. And that
I think
route.
you're helping me. I think you're helping me, Acting Town Administrator Tonelli and Officer Reinhardt, because when I did look at the quote in preparing for today's meeting, I did see rear suspension. And so to me, the layperson, not understanding suspicions and rides and all of that, it looked like it was a similar thing. And so that's why I wanted the information. It looks as though that it is not, based on Councilmember Lundy's question, if this was I don't remember what she said. It's something about check. What'd you say?
No, I was just, you mean me about the apparatus?
Yeah, apparatus.
I was asking, was it connected? Yeah, it's a part of it, which is the fire engine.
Got it.
Exactly. Yes. I used to date a fireman. It's all right.
Give me 1 more second real quick. I'm looking at the second quote. If you 1 second. Rear axle, single rear. That also had an airliner rear suspension on there, which means that is an air ride. It's still a good ride, but the liquid suspension is the
core.
The liquid suspension is the Cadillac of suspension, basically.
Yes.
Thank you.
In layman's terms.
And that's the one that's keeps it very, because I believe it's on hydraulic levelers versus operating off an air tank. So we have I think that is, as Sean said, right now I'm about the max of my technical expertise on this, but air ride suspension is good. It's nice, especially on heavier vehicles where you have a lot of weight up front. That liquid suspension, just driving some of the roads down here, and even if you have to go over like a speed bump, something like that, where they're responding, that's where that would really help, because that is going to provide a smoother ride. But again, this is additional cost that was not in the original quote. So.
All right. Well, thank you for that explanation, Mr. Tonelli, and Officer Reinhardt. Thank you for jumping in there and helping us understand as well. And so, again, this item is on the agenda for the council meeting, but just want to understand from the council what the pulse is the sentiment that we've already donated for the chassis in the box, and so that's the extent of it, or is there
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Two options? Yes.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Rout, we'll go back to you real quick. All three quotes have that airliner 15,000 pound rear, that 15,000 pound air ride suspension. So all three quotes are similar. So to add the liquid spring technology from the lowest bidder would be an increased cost of $10,550. I'd have to go back to the other two. I assume it's going to be the same because it's an aftermarket piece of equipment. I don't know. But all three quotes had that same lower end suspension system. So it wasn't like it was left out on the lower quote. It was already in that lower quote.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Councilmember Rout, did you have another question, or did that help?
Oh no, I just we were given some options by acting town administrator Tonelli. I had the opportunity to review those, and so I guess you were asking for a tone or a pulse. But I do have a fiscal question that I think this is a fiscal matter, so I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask it, because I don't understand the budget donation, because I recall that we did give them all of their donation, but I'm not sure if that was all of last fiscal year.
Yes.
Oh, it was. Got it.
Yes. So that was FY20, and we're now in FY21. So yeah. And yes, Mr. Tonelli.
Right now, we give out the donation quarterly, make sure that the town has the money. So we disperse it at the end of each quarter, depending on the financials. And right now, we dispersed half of the amount to them, because halfway through the year, we have a $30,000 line item for fire department donation. And by the way, just to step back a little bit, that fire department donation, the purchase of the ambulance, also helps our tax differential for residents to get a reduced county tax, because we upped our fire department donation. And fire department and emergency services are a huge part of the tax differential. So even though we use CARES Act funding, we also increased the amount of the annual grant going to the fire department. So we dispersed half the amount already, $15,000 to the fire department. We have a balance of 15 left to disperse for this fiscal year. And I'll put some options out there. And I'll go ahead and I'll share with the public and mayor and council. And these aren't the only options, but three options off the top. One, we fund the difference out of our budget, capital budget. We have to increase it. I find money elsewhere. Probably it's not going to be out of capital. It's going to be out of the operating budget, which we are operating under budget right now. So it's good. that's one option. So we fund it 100%. Second option is we fund it by offsetting, reducing the amount of the final grant amount to give to the fire department. That is a no-cost option to town of Bladensburg. Well, no cost. I mean, no additional fiscal cost option. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say no cost. It's always a cost. And the third option is we ask them to go ahead and pick this part up. And that can be done. And it's that would have to involve, them paying directly out of their funds, if they have the funds, to the manufacturer, the engineering, to get this done at the same time. We've already dispersed our funds according to the CARES grant. So that money's going. We're trying to get this going because the rollout on this is several months. We're talking, Sean, I think that like at the end of the summer, fall, I believe, or something, or.
Yeah, you're probably looking late fall, early next year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because the chassis has to be engineered and you're on a wait time with them. So that'll be at the end of spring, early summer. But those are the only three I presented. Obviously there are more, but I want to put something out there, put something on paper.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. So are there any questions from the council or staff before I jump in? So I was looking at the options, Mr. Tonelli, that you outlined for us. And I think just knowing that, one, they've had to shut down their fundraising, so they're not even at the point where they're bringing in their normal monthly operating revenue. To me, it seems appropriate to just take it from the remaining donation that they have for the year. So that, as you said, there's no budget impact. That's money that's already in the budget. It's already slated to go to them. So it's just, we're telling them that we need to allocate that to this difference so that we're 100% completing the commitment that we had to provide them with the box and chassis. So all they're doing is dropping that emergency room on top of it to get that street ready. But Councilmember Blunt or Councilmember Lundy, Councilmember Mendoza, any reactions to that? Councilmember Rout?
No, I'll share at the council meeting. We've collected all the information. There's no other information to collect.
Fabulous. Okay, so thank you again for giving us that information so we can vote on it in the upcoming meeting. The next item is the town's telephone system. Mr. Tonelli or Chief? I don't see a name next to this one.
There's an update there, but with the activity in the CARES grant funding, I'm launching working on some other projects. This is still a priority, but we haven't picked this one back up yet. We said we're going to since the CARES Act funding ended, but that's just ending, and then the holiday week, we lost some time with that. So that's something Chief and I are going to have to pick back up again here very, very soon. At the same time, we're trying to do this text messaging rollout too.
Man, if I could just chime in a little bit.
Sure.
So we did, I did reach out to a couple of companies to give us some updated information. One being Applied Digital Solutions, and they came out and they did a walkthrough, and they wanted to look to see what we would need to continue our emergency recording system. And they came out and gave us a quote of that was $12,643. So that adds to that's an additional component that will be needed on top of the phone system. In addition to that, I did make contact with a company. Give me a second here. Oh, it's called Nice in Contact. It's a company that deals with police agencies around the area, one being our neighboring jurisdiction over in Hyattsville. spoke very highly of them. So we wanted, as acting town administrator Tinelli just mentioned, we want to get them here to do an assessment, but because of the holidays and that kind of thing, that kind of got put off. I will touch base with them tomorrow to see if we can lock them into a date to come over, put boots on the ground and give us an assessment. But these two pieces have to go together. And I understand that we had like 46,000 set aside for the upgrade of the phone system. So I think this state-of-the-art phone system that they have, the voice over IP type system, where you can get your calls forwarded to your cell phone. So if we ever have to go into a shutdown again, we will have the capability to continue to do town business. So I'll be ready to report back on that at our next meeting, working with acting town administrator Tinelli.
Great, thank you for that update, Chief. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Blunt?
So you said that total cost would be roughly 46,000?
That's what we had set aside. So we won't know until we get them back out. But like I said, for the recording, the emergency recording portion of it would be, they gave us an estimate, a quote of 12,643.
Plus 46? Plus
I'm sorry.
Plus 46?
It's included in the 46, right?
12,643.
It's included?
Yeah. Yes, that's
Sorry.
included in the 46.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, she was asking if it was included. Thank you for that
Okay.
clarification.
Couldn't hear.
Oh, that's all right. And so it looks like that concludes the update for the telephone system. Now we're under new business for requests for letters of support. We have two items here. Mr. Tinelli?
Actually, we have two letters of support. The first one was taking effective action. And this was something that I pulled the council on doing because it was due at the end of December. And this, and what I'm recommending here is a retroactive, I guess you could say, approval at the meeting, because this was time sensitive and was due, and to help them out, it was due for a grant. Help me out, Councilmember Rao. It was due, I think, it was due before our council meeting. Is that correct?
The grant was due yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
on the 10th, and it's a grant through the National Library of Medicine. This nonprofit 501c3 organization took it upon themselves to look into the work that the Bladensburg is doing around healthy eating. They have reached out to us to try to set something up to talk about our small stores that are minority owned in collaboration with the health department's Healthy Lifestyles and Initiatives Coalition. They had an opportunity where they did a wellness seminar that was free of charge to people all over the nation. There were people from Switzerland there, which was a great opportunity. They have a working relationship already with one of our grocers that are in the town of Bladensburg, the Americana grocery store, by which they went on ahead and got a letter of support for this. And basically their projects sounds really, really awesome. It's providing COVID-19 related health information for patients and members of the community, just about healthy lifestyles. So looking at meditation strategies, looking at healthy eating options, like using more vitamin D enriched foods, and fusing that in as an outreach effort to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I did draft the letter that all of the mayor and council, all of the town council it was privy to, and it was signed by acting town administrator on December 29th. And so my request today is to introduce resolution 211-21, which is a resolution endorsing a letter of support for taking effective action, or T, for the network of the National Library of Medicine. Whereas the town of Bladensburg Town Council endorsed the attached letter of support for the 501c3 organization Taking Effective Action, Inc., T, who specializes in wellness education programs, products, and cooperative efforts with others to enable women, men, youth, and families to achieve and maintain optimal health within Prince George's County, Maryland. And whereas the Bladensburg Town Council applauds this organization for securing a partnership with a grocery store located in Ward 1 of the town of Bladensburg, by which bilingual educational materials related to COVID-19 will be disseminated to residents and visitors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution shall take effective immediately upon its passage. And that is what I would like to introduce at our town council session for a vote. Yield back.
So thank you for that update. I guess I was confused. I thought the request was for the letter of support, which is what I was looking at during you all's update. Rather than, I didn't know there was a request for a resolution. I thought we agreed to do the support letter.
I will be making a formal motion at our council meeting. A formal motion in the form of a resolution.
Okay, thank you. Typically, yeah, that's shared with the council in advance. So again, I was looking at the letter that was shared in the prep materials, and typically that information, if it is a resolution, is sent in advance so everyone has time to review it. But thank you for that update,
Thank you, Mayor
Councilmember.
James. It was shared by Acting Town Administrator Tonelli. There were 2 resolutions, and this is one of 2, and they were shared today. Thank you.
Yeah, for some reason, mine are just the letters of support, not resolutions, so I'm not sure. Councilmember Lundy, you are, I believe, on the next one for a letter of support for Sierra Club for Prince George's County Public Schools.
Yes, Mayor James, thank you. So the 100% Clean Energy School campaign, the Sierra Club's Climate Parent is a diverse movement of parents and families mobilizing for bold, clean energy and climate. And one of their current campaigns involves getting school districts around the Prince George's County area to commit to 100% clean energy in our public schools. And so they are leading this charge. Look at my notes. I have a lot of notes, but I'm trying to break it down because, we're for time. So they have already been in discussions with several of our Prince George's County School Board members about this. They have a resolution, but we are doing a letter of support to put forth for, to support the resolution. And already some of our sister municipalities have already signed on in support with letters. The city of Mount Rainier has signed on. The Progressive Maryland Action Team has signed on. The Prince George's County Food Equity Council. The city of Brentwood, Maryland has also signed on. And as a reminder, climate change is an initiative for our county council, our MML, and the Prince George's County Municipal Association. I facilitated a meeting with our newly elected school board member, Board Member Adam Stanford, District 4, along with myself and my colleague, Councilmember Rowell, attended that meeting with the principal of this organization. And we did that on December the 29th, and she is in support. I believe the resolution is going to be brought up sometime this month by Pamela Boozer Struthers with District 3. So my ask is that what can we do so we all know that we can, I'm sorry, I keep going in and out. We cannot wait another year to prioritize such improvements in our schools that serve our most vulnerable populations who have been hit the hardest by the COVID-19 pandemic and are at greater risk from the effects of climate change. So I hope that my colleagues on the council will support my motion during our council meeting to submit a letter of support of adoption of, this resolution committing to implementing of a climate change action plan focused work group because the children of Prince George's County deserve this investment in their future. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Lundy. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Rout?
Mayor James, I do support this and understanding what the ask is of it is this the proven use of clean energy through the busing system. There is a payment mechanism that will pay for cleaner buses as it was presented by the organization to Councilmember Lundy, myself, and Board of Education Shayla Adams Stafford. It is we will be drastically if signing on reducing the carbon footprint of our county school system, understanding pre-existing conditions as it relates to children who are Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. I am in support of this, and I ask my colleagues to join me in supporting this letter of support. I yield back.
Thank you so much. Any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. We've already had the vaccination update. The next item I'm showing here is the Councilmember Blunt mileage accountability.
Good evening, everyone. I was bringing up the mileage accountability because it was brought to my attention to watch a video on YouTube from the past mayor when one of the residents or constituents was asking questions about mileage accountability for Bladensburg. I just know that when I do something, I get paid mileage. I have to chart my where I go, where from, what time, what date, and what I did. And I don't know, is there mileage accountability for Bladensburg written down somewhere when you use the cars? And mainly two cars, the car that the mayor drives and the car that the acting town administrator drives. Those two cars is mainly what I'm speaking of. Because when you use those cars, you have to account for mileage, and especially when you're using the fuel of the taxpayers. So I'm on here to hope that we bring together some type of resolution so that you have to be accountable for the mileage in the cars you use. And with the police department, I did talk with the chief, and the chief, he told me how the mileage runs for the police officer. But have there been a study of how when the cars go home, how much mileage is used, how much fuel is used? We have to be accountable for the taxpayers' money as they're concerned. If anyone wants to go back and watch the YouTube, it is on YouTube, dated April 13, 2015, part 1 and part 2, showing someone asking and concerned about the mileage. And if you're driving cars that really don't belong to you, you have some type of accountability to people to make sure where you're going with these cars, what are you doing with these cars? They're not yours. They're not yours. And in our personnel manual, they are not supposed to be driven. And it's in the personnel manual on page 9, item C for town vehicles. So I'm about driving the car, and my understanding, but I'm not sure, that the car that Vito's driving is an unmarked police car. I don't know. I was told that, and no civilian should be driving a police car whatsoever. Don't know, but I'm bringing it up so that we can have accountability. And from there, I'm going to bring it to Jocelyn to finish out.
Councilmember Rout?
Thank you, Mayor James. I too have been questioned by residents that I represent as it relates to the two particular vehicles and as it relates to mileage, how are they connected? In understanding town efficiency, town government, I do echo my colleagues' concerns that the the vehicles are deemed appropriate and used appropriate, but in our personnel manual, it strictly states that there should not be take-home vehicles. It identifies in our personnel manual which vehicles should be considered take-home vehicles. With the new town administrator coming on board, it's been brought to my attention on a couple of occasions in this past year that I have served that Ward 1 residents are just not interested in having the town administrator actually given a vehicle to come to work every day. Now, when a town administrator gets here and is, working and driving around, of course, get into a vehicle that is, can be made available for it to be driven within the town of Bladensburg to and from meetings. But a take-home vehicle for a town administrator, we are very, very, very generous with our salary and our pay scale because we would like to have a knowledgeable and fine public servants to serve the needs of our Bladensburg residents. But I'm not sure if the intent was to have vehicles to be taken home on a regular basis. And then where's the tracking of the mileage? We just learned at a last meeting that all members of the town council can check out a vehicle. That was, news to me, didn't know that. And so I would like at the work session to put forth a resolution 111-21, a resolution for the adoption of amendments to the town's personnel manual regarding authorization for the use of town vehicles. Whereas pursuant to section 405 in the town charter, the town has the power to employ such officers and employees as it deems necessary to execute the powers and duties provided by this charter or other state laws and to operate the town government. And whereas the Bladensburg Town Council adopted a resolution on March 15th, 2019, approving a comprehensive revision of the town's personnel manual, which has been subsequently amended. And whereas the Bladensburg Town Council finds that it is in the best interest of the town and good for the good and efficient government thereof. That said, the town's personnel manual shall be revised and amended regarding a policy concerning the use of vehicles and other transportation, as stated here and below. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town council hereby amend the town's personnel manual as follows. And you can reference this in the email that was sent to all members of the council individually. Section 2, under employee responsibility, the language is stricken. It adds specific language that shares that town vehicles shall only be operated by town employees, elected or appointed officials, or persons designated by contract to operate such vehicles. The town may make vehicles available to elected and appointed officials and employees for use for a specific public purpose for a specified event or length of time as approved by the Bladensburg Town Council. No town vehicle shall be driven to and kept at an appointed or elected official's home or work location. Town vehicles shall only be used by elected and appointed officials and employees for official business or to maintain the ability to respond to town business outside of the individual's normal work hours. Town vehicles shall not be used for personal business nor for transportation to or from work except as set out in this section. The town may make vehicles available as take-home vehicles to employees only as approved by the town administrator. And number 4, the town administrator was stricken as having a take-home vehicle. Number 5, the cost of public transportation and rideshare use, including bus, taxi, rideshare, public transit, and other similar transportation authorized by department head or the town administrator in the official conduct of the town business may be reimbursed. Number 6, the use of town vehicles should be documented, noting the name of the employee or elected or appointed official, date and time of the vehicle use, starting mileage, location driven to, ending mileage, time and date the vehicle's return, in the form that is monitored by the town administrator or designee. There is a sample form in the resolution. And number 7, any person authorized to drive on official town business must possess a valid motor vehicles driver's license for the class of vehicle they will be operating. So if it's a regular class A, not a class C, like a CDL vehicle, the assignment of departmental vehicles will take place during the regular town budget process. So that shows the accountability, just as other assets are assigned to the town departments or offices. Number 9, the temporary or short-term signing out of individuals may be authorized during and or outside of normal work hours by the town administrator or designee if determined to be an emergency situation, and a more advantageous alternative, as described in subsections 2 and through 5, is not available. In emergency use would include police operations, snowstorms, natural disasters, flooding, or public safety related events and inspections on a weekend. Number 10, reporting accidents. Whenever a municipal vehicle is involved in an accident or damage, the employee or officials operating the vehicle is required to immediately notify his or her immediate supervisor and or the town administrator. The police in the jurisdiction in which the accident occurs must be notified immediately. An accident or incident report must be filed with the town police. Number 11 is the regular language that was already included, and it be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage. That is my proposal that I would like to set forth. Resolution 111-21. I yield back.
Thank you, Councilmember Blunt and Councilmember Rout, for your comments regarding mileage accountability. I will say that a lot of things come to mind as you read that. I think what you're trying to do is great, but putting a resolution on the table the night of and expecting us to vote on it is not a wise thing. This, in fact, it does in fact affect multiple departments. And it's apparent that some of you have already had the opportunity to review this. And the rest of the team needs time to review it, digest it, and even come back with recommendations. There might be things that myself or Councilmember Mendoza wants to add in here. Voting on that tonight, you're taking away our voice. As mayor, I represent residents of Ward 1 and Ward 2, and I would like the opportunity to share this with the public and get their feedback, because there are folks on the phone now who are longtime residents who may have input that they want to add here. And so, again, I appreciate the spirit of this, but throwing things on the table like this, not giving staff, your colleagues on the council, or the public, our very own residents, the opportunity to weigh in and give their feedback, I think that's a very big mistake, and we should give that opportunity and come back at next month's meeting so we can have the opportunity to edit, share. If you all accept those edits, then we give it to legal counsel. We have them review it. I mean, to get this, one, it's marked up. We don't vote on draft resolutions. When a resolution comes to the council, it's in final order. It's not a draft, because that is being put and voted into as a formal document. And there's no emergency here that requires that we need to do this tonight. The other thing too is when it comes to, let me just back up a second. When it comes to our practice, because I did hear a resolution a few other times tonight, I think we do need to be consistent, and that is shared when the council materials are sent out. So we have time to digest it, again, give our voice to it, not just on this matter, but on the other resolutions, and give our recommendations. Giving us these resolutions with short notice, it doesn't make sense. And getting into the mileage accountability, I appreciate, again, the spirit of it, but I know the residents see me driving around here in that town vehicle and they know what I'm about and what I'm doing. I'm not using the town vehicle to go get my nails done and silly stuff like that. On Saturday, when I got a call about ice over in Ward 2 because there was running pipes from a resident, and I won't call you out because you're on here, who was frustrated and saying, you know, nobody's doing anything about this. I came out, I surveyed it, I took pictures, sent that to staff. What can we do? Immediate action happened. I get that you all say, well, the car shouldn't be taken home or whatever the case may be, and that's fine. But in being realistic, so you're delaying my response time. If I've got to go to town hall, get a vehicle and then go see about this, and that resident, again, I'll connect you because it is a ward run resident. And I want you to hear it directly from them, but you're delaying response times and meeting the needs of our residents. If it's the will of the council, then so be it. Let's do the mileage log as you proposed here. But again, I'm just not a fan of throwing something on the table. And I want to hear from other council members as well as our staff. And then I would just recommend that we come back next month so we all can have input. This isn't just driven with the input of one person, because as you all continue to remind me, we are a team. And every voice is important in the same way that you say, I don't speak for you. Well, how do you speak for me and something I have to vote on? And how can I vote on something in good conscience when I haven't had adequate time, or others on the line haven't had adequate time to review it and give input? Councilmember Blunt, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, just for the record, I know I spoke to you about this last week about the mileage and was showing you told you where it was in the book. So I mean, I know you know about the mileage as well as Vito as well as the chief. I spoke to each one of you all about how the mileage program worked, how that worked. I don't know, but if you go back again and watch the YouTube video back dated when your husband was the mayor, these same issues was brought up. The same very issue was brought up back then about mileage, about accountability. And he also said, okay, well, something they can look into, but I'm assuming that never took place. So I can see how you feel because you're using that car for your personal as well as for work. And you also, if you're using fuel, if you're using a town fuel, as well as Vito said he was, I'm not, I understand you want to use the car to get back and forth, but if you had your car, you would still do the same thing. I know you would. If you had your car other than the town car, you would still do the same thing. But because you're working for the town, you said that you feel that we're stripping you. But I did speak to you all about the mileage. Many of the people came to a meeting and spoke about the mileage. So it's not nothing new because that's why you have your person on here because you knew this was coming up. So it's not like you didn't know. So I don't want you to think that that's how I work because you know, as well as everybody on here know that I always speak from my heart and I speak to you in advance. So I don't know too much about the resolution, but if it takes the resolution to make this right, then it should be put in place. It's only a right thing to do.
Thank you. And I appreciate that additional input. Councilmember Blunt, you're right. You did speak to me about your concerns with mileage as it relates to my use of the vehicle. And as I said to you, if there was some gross negligence going on, the amount of vehicle usage that would show from that line item would be way over the amount. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that line item is $2,400, and year to date, what's been used, $400 or $500. So clearly, there's no abuses going on. If there were, that would be much higher. And secondly, that mileage accountability line item, to be fair and actually per our rules, and that's the reason why I was asking you what exactly was the nature of the conversation. Because I wanted to be prepared to have a good discussion and be able to contribute. It wasn't to point fingers at anyone. We're here to work together. And I didn't get the full picture. Now I'm understanding that the goal is to pass a resolution. And as I said before, if that is your intent, that is fine. But we shouldn't be throwing that on the table to make other folks, put them off guard. If we're going to do a resolution, then let's all collectively provide input. Let's all collectively work together on it. It shouldn't be a surprise a few hours before the meeting overthrowing this on the table. I said mileage accountability, but the end game was really throwing an ordinance on here. That's not building collaboration. And that's where I was coming from when I said that. You never indicated, no one else on the call indicated to me that this was the intent of where this was going, but I respect where you all are coming from. Councilmember Rout.
Madam Mayor. This has been an issue that has been going on for a long time. It's been going on as I have been seated in this seat for a year. And before I was seated and elected, there has been gross misuse. There has been, it says that there are no take-home vehicles that should be taken home. And just as all government operations, there has to be a response time. So given the scenario you suggested, in that you drive 5 minutes to go check out a vehicle. That is a standard operating opportunity. There are other members of the town council that do respond to emergencies, and we would have to go to the town hall and check out a vehicle, as it was explained that is the process. And so why there should the mayor have one process and the town councils have another process? We are a team, and it should be equal. And there is not an available gas card, an available tracking mechanism to track my mileage, as I use my vehicle to tote all sorts of things during the census time, where I was putting tables in my vehicle. We were, parading around town of Bladensburg for the use of, given the events, the need. When Public Works was available, or when there wasn't transportation available, we used personal vehicles. And so all this is doing is allowing a process for things to be accounted for. And there has not been accountability. And the only way to make change as legislators, as you may know, is through legislation. And so what we're doing is right sizing this so that we can move forward. No one is saying that you all should not have access to a vehicle. You are doing the work and serving our town residents. And so there just needs to be tracking, the same way that there is a balance in funds for the use of cards and credit cards. At the end of that, there is a balance. And I've heard from more than a small group. So that is the buzz that's going on, is that, oh, we're listening to one small group. Well, we're listening to more than one. I am very active in our community. I'm going out, I'm knocking on doors, I'm talking to residents who are fearful that they will be retaliated against, so they do not want to come. And so it is the role of Jocelyn Clarice Rout, as an elected official, to listen to the voices of the people that I represent, and something has to be done to change. And the same token by which meeting information such as the chassis for the fire department, that was a lot of things to realize and understand and research. That too, I got the draft document that is not marked up. I got it back from our town administrator this morning with her edits and suggestions and comments. It's not marked up. That is a draft resolution, and it can turn into a final document. Those lines and those marks, that's not a markup. That is me showing the different levels of how it is enacted. And so once it is, I know we don't have a clerk. I could not go to a clerk because we don't have one. Mr. Tonelli says that he's inundated, he's overwhelmed. And so I use my knowledge and my skills in going to our town attorney, getting her suggested edits and putting that in a document. It's time for change. It's 2021. The residents have spoken more than a small group, and there needs to be accountability practices. I yield back.
Thank you both again for those follow-up remarks. And as I said, the spirit of it what you're trying to do, I think, is noble. But I know for a fact where this is coming from. You all, out of your own mouth, said this is driven by the same residents. They've been saying this. The document, the YouTube video is there, and that's okay. I just wish there would be transparency to say exactly where it's coming from. And actually, one of our residents echoed the same sentiment. But frankly, we're talking about making this a better year so we can work together. And going around our town administrator, contacting our town attorney where you're incurring cost without his knowledge. One, we didn't even follow our own process, if I understood you correctly. If you went directly to the town attorney on your own, typically our process is we go to the town administrator or acting town administrator, describe what we need. They then go to the attorney. And that way there's a point of contact, sort of air traffic controlling our interfacing with the town attorney. The other thing that I just wanted to say, and it was just because of the point I made previously about just saying mileage transparency, that is really broad. Per our rules, for asking for things from the council to be on the agenda, we're supposed to provide a description of the item for inclusion so that we're all able to review the materials and just come and have a healthier discussion. Just from the comments, I can tell you all have been intimately involved in crafting this document, which is great, but it would just be nice if the rest of the team had the same opportunity. So that is the spirit of it. And frankly, what's also interesting is I keep hearing reference to Ward 1 residents, but we have almost 10,000 people in the town of Bladensburg that live in Ward 1 and Ward 2. And you have given opportunity to hear from your residents. We would like the same opportunity. That is what I'm saying. It sounds like, yeah, Councilmember Lundy, I see your hand.
Yes, so I definitely echo what my colleagues have said. But now, when we talk about the town attorney, I have very much concern about understanding who the town attorney works for. And because and I wanted to see what that process is as writing. I don't know what that process is in writing. And when I had an issue, I was told that I had to go through the town administrator. It wasn't you, Vito. You wasn't even here with the town. But anyway, it doesn't matter. And so I'm concerned because if we have concerns and issues with one another, then we need to know what that process is so that, you know, we're not censored and I don't know how to put it in correct like terms or what have you, but I just feel like we should be able to freely go to our town attorney, being responsible elected officials, because we may have an issue with somebody that's a part of our team. And so if we had not picking on acting town administrator Vito, but if I have an issue with my town administrator, I don't feel inclined to go to the town administrator, because then that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms. So I feel like I should be able to go to the town attorney, who I understand works for the town council, you know, the town, and make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do in the best interest of everyone. So yeah. So I'm happy that you said the spirit of this is good. And I do think that there needs to be accountability, because if we were in our regular job and we're in our regular jobs, I know that's if we had to do what I work for the government, we had to be accountable, and we just couldn't say, well, I got so many meetings that I can't keep up, because then you would be in your supervisor's office and you may be written up. So that's not a good enough excuse. So yeah, so, you know.
Thank you, Councilmember Lundy.
I'm sorry. So my wait a minute. So my point is, I just would like to understand. Maybe we can have a closed session. Maybe we don't do closed sessions. What is the process for going through the town attorney? Because if you only can respond based on the information that you're given, and if everything is so secretive, and then when you do something, your hand is slapped. So it would be good to know what the official process is in writing.
Thank you, Councilmember Lundy. And I do want to make sure that we address that where appropriate. So on the agenda, I think there's future items, and I know you all are also talked about putting together a council orientation packet. And I feel like that process being outlined would be a good bit of information. This is our process. going through the town attorney. However, under these circumstances, the example you described, if something needs to happen, then there's allowance for that because we currently don't have that in place. But I do, for the sake of time, want to just make sure that we continue on. Any further comments on this agenda item before we move forward? Mr. Tonelli?
I guess I just want to echo too. I wish I knew about this concern. I mean, that was happening or being discussed and drafted instead of 4 hours before the meeting. Normal process is, you go through the town administrator and the mayor. That's a normal process. That's in our council agreed upon rules and everything. So it's to see this come through as a full, it was a very vague item in Mob's accountability, and I just feel like it turns into almost like I want to say like a gotcha thing or something. But that's why we have the rules and the processes that we introduce it, have staff an opportunity to look at it, have the full council an opportunity to look at it, have the residents full opportunity to look at it, have everybody weigh in on the process to make it as transparent as possible. That was my main concern. And comics, I guess I just wish as a town administrator, it's supposed to be the filter and everything. And, I just wish that it was brought to my attention prior to this. There's ways to properly handle this and everything. So, and then to get a full resolution, I guess in draft form, and it's also changing it looks like our town personnel policies, which when we did our personnel policies back in 2019, I think that was a very, that was a multi-step process. So, and it looks like it's striking out on line 4 or number 4, the take-home vehicles is striking out the town administrator. That's fine. It's a mayor and council decision, but, just need the opportunity to weigh in, comment, and everything else in order to make this, a normal process, I guess, for bringing a resolution. We normally, of course you can, but we normally don't bring up resolutions and then vote on the same night because they have to be discussed and changed and go back and forth and everything. So that was my takeaway real quick from seeing this. Again, it just got brought up 4 hours before the meeting started, and I didn't know this was happening. So I just wish I had heads up, as the active town administrator, at least, especially when talking to the town attorney directly, because that is really outside the process unless you have some other issue. So.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Councilmember Blunt?
Yeah, Vito, I understood you said that the operational manual was revised in May of 19, but by you being active town administrator, then you knew the vehicles was being misused. I'm saying for a good cause. When I'm saying for a good cause, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying have accountability. That's all I'm saying. And to be slapped on the hand when you find something that's clearly written in the office manual, and this is written in yours book that you gave me. And I was told at the last meeting that we came on as council, we should have did our homework. So I did my homework.
I was the one that said that.
I know, and I did my. Thank you. And I did my homework, and I found out a lot of other things that's being done that's not per this book. So I don't want to get smacked on the head because I'm touching on somebody's toes. Of course, the resolution came after the mileage of what I felt about the mileage. I'm gonna feel that way because you have to have accountability when you're using somebody else's thing. We are grown. You have to have accountability when you're using other people. I came to the chief. He told me how that works when I asked him about mileage and how the police do their mileage. He told me about his part. I came to Vito. You told me about how when you use your car, both of you all know that. And I came to you, Mayor. I mean, I came to all of you. All of you all know I'm going to come to you straight. I'm not going to cut no corners. That's why you can always talk to me. And my thing is, yes, the chief can speak. The chief told me how the police officers use the cars, take home for mileage, and how they're reimbursed, and they use the gas cards. So therefore, those cars was not what I was concerned about, but it was the two cars that I heard about. And then when I went to look at the YouTube video, when a constituent was asking the same question, whether she part of B5 or not, because I'm going to say it, B5 or not, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if she's a part of B5 or not. So it's nothing secret here. My thing is, if one person have a concern, then everybody has a concern. So that's all I'm saying. So my thing is, this is not to slap nobody on the hand. I just wanted to know how this process worked by not being accountable for mileage.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Councilmember Blunt. Chief Collington, I think I saw your hand up.
Thanks, man. I just want to weigh in a little bit about some of the comments that were made this evening. And I can say that I would like a little more time to digest and go through this and provide some structural input to this resolution from this public safety aspect. And as Councilmember Blunt alluded to when she called me, it was a telephone call that went, it was just, random questions that she was asking that I didn't really know where she was coming from, but, I had no problem answering the questions and being transparent about what we do, how we use cars. But I do know that I come from an agency where we don't reimburse for gasoline. Our officers here, number one, our officers aren't paid very well for this police department. So having a take-home car is an incentive to keep good officers here, or we just going to have a revolving door. If we start taking away from these officers who aren't making, they can go next door and make more money, get a take-home, and don't have to reimburse the city for a car. I drove a car for 20 plus years, never paid $1 for fuel, and I also never abused my and I will say that I never abused. My vehicles are always used in accordance with the policy. And I would not like for the message to go back to the staff that the council is looking to take away anything from them in doing their job. Because when you take these take-home cars away from them, when we have something, when we need them in an emergency, I can't have my officers trying to get here to give some assistance and then risk their safety trying to get to work to help somebody because they don't have a take-home vehicle. We have to look at the totality of what we are saying here. And I kind of glanced over the resolution draft, and I had some concerns, number one, about the writing the report. I cannot go in Washington, D.C. if someone has an accident in D.C. and write a police report because D.C. is the governing body. So I can't go over there. So there were a couple of things that I saw in there, but I just want to, point out that, and I know our mayor is definitely very heavily involved in this community, all over the place. Like there's nothing that we don't do where you don't see the mayor. So, the Councilmember Rout, I've seen you out, Councilmember Lundy come out. But I'll say the mayor, hands down, is always here, and she does things when we don't even see her. And she didn't even want to, change cars. I was the one that said, "Man, listen, you out late at night with an old car that's like 12 years old, or whatever it is. You need something that's reliable. So if you break down, you're female. So we have, again, I'm thinking about the big picture. And I get you want mileage, accountability, and things like that. That's fine. But to take away the perks that someone that goes above and beyond, I just think is a little unreasonable. It's just my opinion. It's a little unreasonable. And I just think that we should probably give a little more consideration, because I would like to go through it just to see, put my input in, like I said, a structured input on it, because we do have GPS on our cars. So I can pull up at any time, any month, and look and see how much fuel officers use, how many miles officers use within the month, what their speed was during that month. So we do have accountability in this right here in the palm of my hand. So, that's just, my piece on it. I just think that we should not be so quick to pull the trigger on taking away from, especially our officers who come to work and do their job every single day.
But nobody said officers.
Thank you, Chief Collington. Sorry, Councilmember Blunt.
No one said officers. So I guess you just inserted that in there.
I thought you said all cars.
No, I didn't. I never said that whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Blunt, for that clarification. So it looks like we've heard from everyone. Sorry, Councilmember Rout. I'm sorry, I'm going between two screens trying to see you all in the agenda. So give me a
So
second.
I wanted to be clear that the motion as I did my homework, resolution is just a written form of a motion. And so we should be presenting motions as our town charter states. And you can find that in section 209. And so the resolution business, we can do a resolution in the same per our town charters. Secondly, this is only Chief Collington going to truly affect the acting town administrator, because he's in the role of a town administrator, and the mayor. And take-home cars will not be taken from code enforcement. It will not be taken from public safety. Okay, and so there is a clause that if there is a need for the mayor or the town administrator to get a take-home vehicle, there is an approval process. There's also a tracking process to track the mileage for all of the vehicles that are used, that are on a take-home basis. So this does not include your officers that are traveling to and from. This does not include the public safety personnel that works for the town of Bladensburg. And lastly, in the motion, it says from the jurisdiction that the accident was taking place in. It does not state for the town of Bladensburg to go to the District of Columbia to do a report. It says to call the police during that jurisdiction. And that is simply that resolution language was borrowed from a lot of other municipalities as best practices. I yield back.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. And again, I think just in reading this in haste, it leads to errors in comprehension or not clear timelines where follow-up questions can be had. And so that is the whole purpose. As I said, we may have things that we want to add in here. And so that's why we're saying this is not an emergency resolution. The recommendation would be that we come back to this so that we can add our input to make sure that this makes sense from everyone. We all have something to contribute. That's what, you all say to me. We all have something to contribute. You don't want me, and you all have called me out for doing things without you, and yet I'm not able to give input here. So I've heard from everyone, and we're going to move on, especially for the sake of time. Our next agenda item, I believe, is Councilmember Lundy with the MML Mayor's Essay Contest.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. So we usually do this. This is done throughout all the municipalities with their schools and their districts. And so it's the MML Mayor's Essay Contest. And the theme this year for 2021 is teamwork through flexibility, respect, and leadership and civility. And so basically they're going to be talking about change, having to make adjustments to new people, places, and habits and things. And it's not something we can always control. But the one thing that we know is constant is change. Okay, so this will be a way to engage our students to help them learn about the benefits of Maryland municipal government. And so I hope we will support it again this year. And it's for our fourth graders. And we call them our young constituents and future municipal leaders. And so that's what that's about. So usually the application process is in March. So it's done through the MML's Engagement and Outreach Committee, the Maryland Municipal League's Engagement and Outreach Committee. And this process and program ends in March. And they usually do the scoring in April. And, you know, we got shut down because of COVID, so we couldn't really do anything last year. Well, at the end of the year, whatever, when COVID hit, because it hit in what, January, February, March or something like that. So that's it about the MML. So I'll probably be getting with the administrator, Mr. Tadelli, about how we can work it out, and we may have to do some virtual meetings where we reach out to our fourth graders and our teachers, because usually MML sends the information in advance to the schools. Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Lundy. And then the next item, so it looks like this was actually on here. It was just in a different placement, the town grant application, but we've covered that previously. I know in the agenda earlier, it was brought up that it wasn't here. The next item is the Port Towns Quarterly Meeting. As a practice, we typically hold that the last Monday of January, but that is close. And so for the sake of time, we can follow up over email to figure out what works best for our council members and staff, so we can get that scheduled and get the word out to the other port towns to ensure we have a good attendance for that. The next item, welcome packets for new businesses and residents. Is this something we need to, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to go back to that one just because we are almost in mid-month. Those 3 dates I've already cleared with the other Port Town members. So it's up to us to go ahead and set it, and then I can respond to them tomorrow. So while I have everybody on here, just want to, you know, I'd rather do it sooner than later than get the email chain. So I have 3 dates submitted there, 25th, 26th, and 27th, all at 6 p.m., Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So whatever works best.
Does Monday work, the 25th, for anyone?
Right now, all my dates are open right now.
Okay, Councilmember Rout? Thumbs up. Councilmember Mendoza?
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Blunt? Monday, the 25th at 6? Okay.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
Okay. No problem. It is easier to do it while everyone's on the line. Welcome packets. Can we table this, or is there something pertinent for tonight's discussion for new businesses and residents?
Councilmember Lundy? Gotta mute.
Yes.
This for the welcome packets for the new businesses.
Oh, yeah. So I had just reached out to Acting Town Administrator Tonelli about the idea of doing something like this for our residents. So I'm currently on Nextdoor. I've been on Nextdoor, but I'm on there a lot now. And I love when they say, "Oh, I'm welcome to Bladensburg. I just moved here." So I say, "Welcome" from Council Member, Lundy, Ward 2. So I would like to see us have some kind of nice welcoming packet for our businesses and our residents. And when we get our website hooked up, to have a link where, we could have them to go there and do something, fill out some kind of form that's how we could have them to register, that they would let us know that they are new to the town. And I just wanted to share with the mayor that and you never know who is where you are. At our Christmas party last year at Elizabeth Seton, I just had the good fortune of sitting across from a new resident. And, she was, very taken by everything that was going on. So I just want us all to know that when we have these meetings, even these meetings like this, that we never know who's in the room. And so we need to always be conscious of that. And so she was a new resident, and she made some observations about some things. And so I don't know if she's still a resident here or not, but she was a new resident then. So I really would like to see some welcome packets and that kind of thing. So that's something we could work on. I don't know if you all have them already. Do we have a welcome packet? I know we have a brochure for businesses, but I don't know if we have anything specific.
Yeah, if you
residents.
don't mind checking with Ms. Griffin. So typically, if I have a new resident that I'm aware of moving into the community, she'll put items together for me in a folder to give to them. But you may want to review it because that's what's been, given out for a while, and you may want to refresh that. So I would encourage you to just talk to Ms. Griffin and take a look at it and go from there. And if it's changed, if you just let us know, so that way we're aware of what's in it. But again, that has been a practice to request those packets from Mrs. Griffin and give to new residents or businesses.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And then the next item is, it's crazy that February is next month, but our Black History Month celebration. Councilmember Lundy, I know you were involved in the committee last year. Did you want to work with staff to lead that again this year, understanding that it's going to have to be virtual? I know Mr. Tonelli had some ideas, and if you guys, if you're interested in being on the committee again, maybe you could connect and then just let us know.
Yeah, definitely will get with Mr. Tonelli on that. And 1 second. So definitely want to give a shout out to Ms. Cecile Cunningham, because it was under her leadership that we had an excellent, her leadership working with the staff, that we had an excellent Black History Month program. And I had never been to one before, and I wanted to sit in on the meetings to see, to get more familiar with the staff and how they work. So that's why I asked to be invited to the meetings. Understand I could come anyway, but I, just put it out there that I was interested in coming. But I do want to give a shout out because I thought it was an excellent program. So I don't know how we're going to top it, but I'm sure we will moving forward. And we probably got to do something virtual as long as we're in this new norm. But yeah, I would love to work with the staff again and under the leadership of Acting Town Administrator Tonelli. No problem, definitely. And I do have some ideas.
Great, thank you. And I know others on the council do as well. So you may just want to pull, from the group. I know Councilmember Roud had mentioned a script she wrote previously. There were maybe 2 months ago where we initially were just briefly talking about this. Councilmember Roud?
Thank you, Mayor James. I am interested in knowing what are some of the ideas that are behind the curtain. I mean, given Black history, that's, an excellent opportunity for people of color are able to, just celebrate their history. So Acting Town Administrator, I wanted to ask you, what are some of those ideas that you have?
There is a lady over in my area on the Eastern Shore that is on the, I share with the mayor. My wife has contact with her. I think she's a great motivational speaker. She has a farm, a nonprofit, and she's on the, there's something called I had a chance to look this up. It's the Giving Tree, which was a major landmark, I think, along the Underground Railroad. It's on her farm, and she has retreats there, and she has the whole history of the Underground Railroad because it goes through her property. And she does a whole education piece around it, and she has a very captivating story. And I think she'd be great to do like a virtual presentation. Haven't reached out to her. Actually, my daughter talked to her. My wife has talked to her before. It sounds like she has a really, really great story. And I think it's timely and something that can be shared, and she shares it a lot. So, and I think she's a public speaker as well on the subject as well. It's just one idea. But I got excited when I heard about it, and I called the mayor. I said, this lady sounds great. Can we get her in? So it's, but I can give you more information about it, but I'd rather talk to her first. I haven't talked to her yet, so I don't want to volunteer her, but I'm sure she'd do it. But, my daughter got talking to her, and she said I could just talk to her for hours. I mean, she's that kind of personality. I'm like, perfect. Give me all the information. And my wife was like, I know her. I talked to her before. I know exactly the whole story. And she told the whole story again. So it's kind of neat. So it's, and that's kind of person you want engaging in everything too. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. I see a hand from Councilmember Blunt.
Well, acting town administrator in Coletta, Lundy. Can I put my fashions, my African fashions in your history? It's a fashion show, virtual fashion show, and with African attire. So if y'all have room for that, virtually. So add it.
Perhaps you all can connect and get that together. Yes, and Councilmember Mendoza, because I know for many years you used to organize
Yeah,
the
I actually
event.
was the chair of the committee for a while there, back in my early days. Now, one year we did on military, so we brought in a Buffalo Soldier. We had an elected official, and we bought the mayor of another town that she was from. She was the first black, first female mayor of that town. We also had one year the guy that designed the crib for Martin Luther King. So we had a lot of different people. So it was used to be, one time we had it at the theater, the public theater, sometime at the high school, Elizabeth Seton. So Black History always been a big event for us. And normally we start like in October planning it. This year, because of COVID, we've been, a little bit bad. But it is a big event. And I mean, unfortunately, this year is going to be on virtual, but we have dances, party. And I like your idea, Ms. Blunt, about the fashion show. Anything to make it juicy and good.
Yeah, I like that. And Madam Mayor, and I like that. And make it juicy. That could be like a filler, and in between, like a breaks. I was thinking of like a To Tell the Truth. Remember that TV show? And people can come on and say who they are, and we have to guess who they are and all that kind of stuff. There's so many things we can do. That's a little offline conversation.
Oh, yeah, the mayor did that last year at the community center, where you had to guess who the historical person was, and they were dressing the costume. I don't know if you remember. You had to guess who they were.
Yeah, this would be different. This would be a little bit different, though. A little bit different.
Okay. No, but
So
good idea.
Yeah, so thank you all for the enthusiasm, for really embracing the fact that it will have to be virtual, but that doesn't have to take away any of the
Well, that means we could get
creativity.
better speakers because they don't have to come all the way in Bladensburg.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. So maybe we can get Obama. Who knows? All right.
Just
So thank
real
you.
quick, I may have to
Meet Obama. I got to end.
bring in additional help just because, the first part of the agenda was several items that things are not happening. So, and then this is addition to, so I may have to bring in some additional help for this, to form a committee with council members and also with staff that can go ahead and make sure, because not my concern is if we do something, Bladensburg does something, we want to do it really well. I want to have the people that can have the time and energy to make it really, really, really well. So it's because it's important. I think, my gosh, look how many ideas just came up there in 3 minutes, so, but, we have just a few weeks left. So, and that's something we can iron out. I just want to put that out there, though.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Appreciate that transparency with our bandwidth issues. And we also have community volunteers, residents who want to be a part. So that's another option. But I want to get through the remaining two items for old business. We still need to revisit the COLA and merit increases. And then we also have the dental and vision insurance renewal. So I want to turn it back over to you.
Okay, the COLA and merit increases, we've gone through, when we approved the budget back in June, they were approved with COLA and merit increases in the budget, but we did not, under my suggestion and the mayor and council along with it, that it was in the budget, but we're going to stagger it or time it so it wasn't going to happen on July 1 because we're still going through COVID. We're still shut down. We were still under the emergency order. We weren't sure how the financials were going to play out. Because just 8 months ago, it was worst case scenario. I mean, we had no idea. So they haven't happened. So COLA merit is normally given or it is normally done as of July 1st for the fiscal year. And we've gone through 6 months without enacting the COLA or the merit. We haven't done that in years. It was way before I came here, but and that's just to keep up with inflation and everything. That's COLA, and merit is on job performance. COLA is across the board, merit's earned, but we haven't done it, and we are under budget for salaries and for salaries, the totality of salaries, overtime, and FICA. We are under budget this year, $130,000 through the end of December. Now, that is accumulation of, we went through several vacancies in the public safety department this summer, which weren't completely filled until late in the fall. We have the town administrator position, which has been vacant for 6 months. And we also have a major position that's in the budget that I asked Chief to stagger that if we can, as we bring on the command staff. So there's been 6 months of savings there. And also the town clerk position for the last 3 months, 3.5 months, I believe. So there's savings there in the budget. That's what I'm willing to see before I would bring this back to the mayor and council. Now, there's different ways to enact the COLA and merit. There's all sorts of combinations. As I said, we normally do it as of July 1st. We can do it, retro back to July 1st, start January 1, start April 1. You can do all sorts of combinations, merit only, COLA and merit. If we go back, let's go to what I called putting it all in. If we go back to making it retro to July 1 for both merit and COLA, it will be an additional $120,000 throughout the year. So half of it would be done as a retro going in, and the other, because we've already incurred 6 months of payroll. And the other half, there are $60,000, which includes a FICA, will be paid out as is paid out throughout, until June 30th. One option, could start it January 1. There's all sorts of options, but I do want to bring this back to mayor and council because I think we're at a point where we can address it. If we do want to address it, the mayor and council does want to address it. Now is a good time because we're halfway through the year. We have a half year financials behind us. We know where we have been, and there is savings there. So, and that's what I'm presenting. I can't make I can't make a decision, obviously. I'm bringing this to the mayor and council, but when the budget was approved, it was approved inclusive of COLA and merit beginning July 1. But we didn't do that. We suspended it, waiting for Vito to come back and say, when can we address this again? Now I'm at a point I'm comfortable with bringing that back because we are under budget. And we're going to be under budget because we still have vacancies, and two of the key positions, three key positions here, three of the higher/highest positions. So until they're filled, you're still going to have that savings all the way through. Savings not only in salary, but savings also in payroll taxes and savings in benefits such as health insurance and other insurances like dental and vision, which we'll talk about next.
Great. Any comments or questions for Mr. Tonelli? Okay, and Mr. Tonelli, back over to you for the insurance.
Okay. I didn't bring health insurance. We approved last year. That was last year. Okay. Last month, that was through Care First, and that automatically renews. Another part of the insurance, which I should have bought last month, but it's staggered. Health insurance renews in December. Our dental and vision insurance is a smaller part of it. It's 5% of the total cost of the plan. It's roughly what I put out here, like $37,000, I believe. I don't have it in front of me, but it's through MetLife, and it's the same carrier that we've had for years, and it's for vision and dental. And this automatically renews every year and is part of the health insurance enrollment process. You have health insurance, then you have dental, and a small part for vision. The dental insurance is not full-blown dental. It's hard to get full-blown dental. This covers up to like $1,500 maximum per year per individual. I think $5,000 maximum per family, I want to say. But the smaller benefit, and we shopped it last year, went through a considerable process. I looked at probably, I sent like 12 different plans. Problem is, well, not the problem, but this has the broadest network and the best coverages. Some had great coverages, you know, they'd offer $2,000 per person, additional $500, but the network was very small. And we have employees everywhere, and the network's very small. You only have certain providers. You're pigeonholed into going to your provider. Nice thing about MetLife and some of the other plans, even like the more popular ones like United Concordia, which I liked, but it wasn't price competitive because at the same time I'm going back to MetLife and saying I'm shopping you. So that's why they haven't increased the rates either. So they've gone 2 years with 0% increase on our rates. So this is something that normally gets it just automatically rolls over. It automatically rolls over. But I just want the council, the mayor and council, to be aware of it, and just to be transparent too. I'd rather have a vote on this for approval. My recommendation for the mayor and council is to approve the renewal for MetLife for dental and vision insurance.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay.
I do have a question. So is this the only option, is my question, as this dental coverage, it seems a little limited. So you're asking us to make a decision based off of one quote to continue. What is the ask? Because just receiving one quote is it up for expiration? Are we exploring other opportunities and you just want us to be made aware? I see it's on the agenda. It was sent to us not in a lot of time as well. So I wanted to just ask, what is the ask? Is it just to move this and then possibly we can look into other coverages another time? Because we only have one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Tonelli, I want to make sure I heard you. You said you shopped this out to 12 different companies.
Last
And
year. I went
Last
year.
last year, and it's
Not this year.
yeah, and it's because it's a
And
tough.
I'm sorry, when you say last year, I'm thinking 2020.
Last fiscal year. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This time last year is what I meant to say. But it was a very long process, and going back between the brokers, you know, come back quotes back and forth and everything, and then you have to drill down to see where the providers are and what the network is, and make sure that there's enough availability. But we've had the same plan now for Sean. I'm gonna ask you to help me out. I mean, you've been on it. I mean, it's been the same plan for years, but we do check them. But that is something that when we do get more help on here, of course, you know, we're going to shop this out again. And with the health insurance, even though everybody likes our packages, we got to make sure, you know, always the best bang for the buck. And so, but it's my recommendation to go ahead and have this renew again this year, since it is I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Since it is there's no cost increase from the carrier.
Great, thank you. Any further questions from the council? Okay, so let me just switch screens. I was looking at that document that Mr. Tonelli shared. Get back over to the agenda. So I believe we've got a list of future items to discuss at the next meeting. We've come to the end of the agenda, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor?
Yes, is there one more thing?
talk about the ambulance? Is that something you want to wait until the council meeting?
Say that again. You broke up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the ambulance chassis, because we have the chief on here, Chief Sumner's on here. I don't know if you want to keep him on to talk about it at the council meeting.
So two things. One, due to the lateness of the
Yeah, I know.
because I know I have
That's
to
the
pick
other
up
thing.
my daughter, and I thought we'd be done with both meetings by 8:30. I was going to ask if we could look at scheduling the council meeting for another night. We want to make this to where people can get on, our residents, and I don't think it's good to anticipate they're going to be on here from 9 to 10 or whatever. So that would be one question. And then the second question about the ambulance chassis. Yeah, if you want to just quickly go back to it. But on our side, we haven't made a decision. It'll be discussed in the actual council meeting under financial business. But did you want to, Mr. Tonelli, did you want to just recap it for the chief or?
Is it still on? I think he may have dropped off.
Yes, he's here. Good evening, Chief. Thank you for joining.
I'll go after him.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Is it okay if we go back to it, or should we wait until just see if the work set, or wait and see until the council meeting is going to get rescheduled and then bring them in then, or?
Yeah, that's what I have a comment about, the possibility.
Go ahead, council member. Go ahead, council member.
Yeah, because the letters of support is a time sensitive issue. So for the 100%,
yeah,
those two, is yours, council member Rout, a time sensitive issue as well?
It was done retroactively, right? We did it. Yeah, we just needed the formal approval.
Right.
Okay, well mine,
I recommend we do the same.
I would still like to make good on the promise as,
yeah,
because it was promised to the CEO of that organization that we were be meeting today. And it's unfortunate that we had technical difficulties.
Yeah, and then the same with the 100% clean energy for Prince George's County Public Schools. Those are time sensitive.
Right, Councilmember Rout, when you were talking, the signal was buffering, so I didn't hear your full statement. Can you just repeat that for us one more time? It might have just been on my end.
Oh, sure. No, I was just saying that I did share with the proposed actions, as you know, it's of the pleasure of the council. So I would like to make good on, and it wasn't, you know, an intentional that we weren't meeting. We had technical difficulties, which caused us to, you know, extend our meeting. So I'm not sure if, I don't know. I would like to proceed with our meeting.
Thank you. So again, I've got to run, but if there are just a couple of pressing things, I can stay on, but this is just not good. And I think as a best practice, when your meetings are going this late, the point is to have our community here and a part of it. We're going to lose people. And not only that, it's just our own attention span. So we've reached the adjournment phase. So let's go ahead, close out the work session and discuss the next step, whether or not we proceed. So at least we can, you know, give our residents a chance to just take a break if we are going to continue. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn tonight's work session?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Lundy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for
discussion.
Sorry.
When is the discussion about the meeting, the second meeting? This is just a close.
Once we conclude, yes,
Okay.
yes, and then we'll talk about that. Any discussion about adjourning? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's work session. And at this time, again, just want to get a sense from the council on timing for holding the council meeting. Trying to pull it up here. And Mr. Gray, I just want to double check. Are we still live streaming at this moment?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So at this time, I'm looking at the agenda. I know the letters of support, Councilmember Rao said those have timelines on there. Council of Government appointments, those we should have turned in back in December. So we do need to get those done. We did talk about.
I got an extension on that because they've already had their meeting, I believe, Councilmember Lundy on the
first week of January.
On the 5th. So they said, it's after your council meeting. So.
All right. So would you all be open to amending the agenda so we cover the action items as well as the financial business for tonight? Would that be amenable? Councilmember Rao. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember Lundy.
Yes. So as long as we with the COG positions, we just have to let, if we're interested in serving on a committee, to let Acting Town Administrator Tonelli know. I've already submitted my interest, and then he can submit that because we did receive the extension.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding what you said about the financial issues, and then those 2 letters, yes, I'm in favor of doing that.
I would also, I would like to put forth my resolution. Worked really hard on it.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like the opportunity for our democratic process to take place.
Yeah. And
And there were a couple of resolutions. Can you remind me?
Both of them.
Councilmember
Both of
Rao?
them. Both
Okay.
of them.
All right. So can we just take a 5-minute recess and come back and go ahead? And what I understand is we'll call the meeting to order, open in prayer by Councilmember Lundy. We'll get into the action items, the financial business. My understanding is the action items include the resolutions. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
All right. Thank y'all. I'll see you in 5.